Good afternoon, I'm Ishaan Arya and today I'll be making 5 speeches. My first speech is a persuasive speech delivered at a debating platform. There are between 200 and 250 people in attendance aged between 17 and 50. A very good evening to one and all. My name is Ishaan Arya. And as a representative of the affirmative side of the House, I am strongly in favor of breaking tech monopolies. 25 years ago, Google, Facebook, and Amazon didn't exist. Today, they're amongst the largest and most well-known companies in the world. It's a great story, but also one that highlights why it is so important to break monopolies and promote competitive markets. In the early 1990s, Microsoft, the tech giant of its time, was trying to parlay its dominance in computer operating systems into dominance in the new area of web browsing. The federal government sued Microsoft for violating anti-monopoly laws and eventually reached a settlement. The antitrust case against Microsoft paved the path for internet companies like Google and Facebook to emerge. This story highlights why promoting competition is so important. It allows new, groundbreaking companies to grow and thrive, which pushes everyone in the marketplace to offer better products and services. I mean, aren't we all glad that now we have the option of using Google instead of being stuck with Bing? Today's big tech companies have way too much power. Too much power over our economy, our society, and our democracy. They've bulldozed competition, used our private information for profits, and have tilted the playing field against everyone else. And in the process, they've hurt small businesses and stifled innovation. Today's big tech companies have achieved this level of dominance primarily based on 2 strategies. The first is by using mergers to limit competition. Facebook has purchased potential competitors Instagram and WhatsApp. Amazon uses its immense market power to force smaller companies like diapers.com to sell at a discounted rate. Google has snapped up the mapping company Waze and the ad company DoubleClick. Instead of blocking these transactions for their negative long-term impacts on innovation and competition, government regulators have waved them through. The second way these companies assert their dominance is by using proprietary marketplaces to limit competition. A lot of these companies own a marketplace where buyers and sellers can interact while also participating on that marketplace. This can create a conflict of interest that undermines competition. Amazon copies the goods other sellers sell on the Amazon marketplace and sells Amazon's own branded version of them. Google allegedly demoted the content of a competing search engine on its search algorithm. Venture capitalists are now hesitant to fund tech startups because they're going to have to compete with these massive tech companies, and because it's become so easy for them to either drive them out of business or snap them up. The number of tech startups has slumped, with the first financing rounds declining 22% since 2012. And so, in order to restore the balance of power in our democracy, in order to promote competition, and to ensure that the next generation of technology innovation is as vibrant as the last, it is time to break our biggest tech monopolies. It is how we protect the future of the internet. Thank you. My second speech is an after-dinner speech delivered at the celebratory dinner of the Summer Soccer Games. There are 70 people in attendance, aged between 17 and 45. So, how are you all today? Pumped? Yeah, I can see all that spaghetti you devoured. Big cheat day, huh? But jokes apart, you guys totally deserve it. As your captain, it is truly my honor to have teammates like you all. Managers, sponsors, coaches, this achievement today, it's for everyone. Great moments are born from great opportunities. I can't believe that the 25 people sitting in front of me are champions of the Summer Soccer Games. Like we started off as underdogs, as a team who had no idea what to do and how we were supposed to do it. Look at us today. Today, we played like true champions. We played like we didn't have any doubt in our minds about what we were supposed to do and how we were supposed to do it. We didn't let them come near us. The field was ours. We went out there and seized every moment, taking their game and shoving it right back in their face. Yeah! I mean, remember in the middle of the season, yes, we lost a couple of games. And yes, we did feel it. You felt it. We felt it. But it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how strongly you get back up. I mean, look at Mark. Everyone wanted him out of the team. But today, he proved himself. Today, he played like a true champion. James held back things wonderfully at defense. I mean, that stuff doesn't happen every day, does it? He just did not let the opposition capitalize on their leads. Great job. The midfield were a perfect example of hard work. I've seen these guys struggle through the training sessions, but they were completely different people out there. In fact, seeing that struggle makes me appreciate them even more. Great job, guys. And lastly, the strikers. You knew it was going to be hard work playing out there tonight, but you executed your skills to perfection. You were goal-scoring machines, of course, and you cooperated brilliantly. Excellent. I look back at this season, and all I can see are the amazing memories that we've made. From hiding Sean's cleats to commenting on how much Charlie stinks, it was all so much fun. This is my family. All of you. I mean, it's amazing how this season has changed us all, isn't it? I mean, look at Gronk. He looks like a guy straight out of an underwear ad. Can you imagine that this was the same guy who used to sit on a couch and eat potato chips all day? And oh, Coach Bill, how can I forget? He made sure that we left training every day with sore legs. Oh, all those rounds we ran. But looking back today, every single round was definitely worth it. We won today because of each and every one of us. We wanted it so bad. Yes, we made mistakes, but we kept coming back. That's the culture that we created. We may not have the best team, the best players, but who cares? Today, we have the trophy, and they don't. Congratulations, guys. Great game. Enjoy yourselves to the fullest. But don't forget, Coach Bill is going to be waiting at the field at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, see you all there. My third speech is a story delivered at a children's adventure camp. There are 25 children in attendance, aged between 10 and 13. So, how are you all today? All ready to go to bed? Oh yes, I almost forgot. It's my turn to tell you all a story today, isn't it? So, as you're about to go to bed and enjoy some sweet dreams, let me tell you the story of the Brahmin's dream. Once upon a time, there lived a Brahmin. The Brahmin was very poor and used to beg for a living. He was very lonely and had no friends or relatives. Whatever food he got as begging, he kept it in a pot and hung it beside his bed. One day, he got a quantity of rice mush, so much that even after eating to his full, he had one full pot of rice mush left. Yes, he just couldn't take his eyes off that pot. It looked so beautiful. And soon, staring at the pot, the Brahmin fell asleep. And he started to dream. Now, can you guess what he was dreaming about? Yes, that is right. He dreamt about his giant pot of rice mush. He dreamt that it was overflowing. He dreamt that if a famine came to the land, no one would have any food and they would all be very hungry. Then they would come to the Brahmin and say, "Oh, noble Brahmin, please give us some rice mush from that giant pot you have." And the Brahmin would say, "Okay, but I'm going to need 5 silver coins for every handful." And soon, handful after handful after handful, the Brahmin would have 100 silver coins. Now, with these 100 silver coins, the Brahmin would buy himself a pair of goats. Now, these goats would have little kids every 6 months. And he would take these kids and sell them in the market for 500 silver coins. Yes, you heard me right. 500 silver coins. Now, these cows and buffaloes would have their own little calves, and they would also give lots of butter, which he would also turn into milk and curd. And he would sell all of this in the market, and soon he would become a rich man. Everywhere he would go, people would say, "Oh, look, that's the rich Brahmin." A wealthy man looking at his enormous wealth would want to marry his daughter to him. He would say, "Oh, please, noble Brahmin, please marry my daughter." The Brahmin would marry her, and soon they would have a child. Now, what should he name his son? Yes, he would name him Soma Sharma. Now, little Soma wouldn't listen. He would run around the house all day making noise. The Brahmin would get very angry. He would pick up a stick and run after him. Still in his dream, the Brahmin actually picked up a stick and started running in his room. He pulled the stick back and struck! Crash! Can you guess what he hit? Yes, you're an intelligent lot. He hit his beloved pot of rice mush. All the rice mush spilled over him, and all his dreams got crushed at once. So, how was that? Wasn't that hilarious? Great. Alright, so you guys better go to bed because we have a lot of activities in store for you tomorrow. But please don't sleepwalk in your dreams like the Brahmin. See you all then. My fourth speech is introducing and thanking a speaker at the Harvard Commencement Address. The audience is 1,000 people aged between 20 and 65. A very good evening to one and all. Today, it is truly my honor to introduce our 2017 commencement speaker, a role model for all as someone who is committed to making the world a better place. He is someone who's willing to go beyond his own comfort zone in order to fulfill his vision of a more open and connected world. He is willing to make mistakes and face criticism. His praiseworthy critical thinking, problem solving, and oral communication skills have resulted in tremendous success for him over the years. He also met with various country leaders as part of his vision for shaping future generations and helping tackle various global social problems. His work in technology takes on a big role in the real world rather than relying on our politicians to do it for us. 13 years ago, on the 4th of February 2004, this exceptional leader resided right here in room H33 of Kirkland House in this very university. In this very dorm, he launched the Facebook social networking service to select college campuses. The site soon expanded and reached 1 billion users by 2012, making him the world's youngest self-made billionaire. Sitting in his dorm that night, he could have never imagined that one day he would connect over 2 billion people and become a billionaire many times over. Today, 13 years later, he stands among us as an American media magnate, internet entrepreneur, and philanthropist, in addition to being the chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Facebook Incorporation. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for that enlightening and entertaining presentation. You have truly inspired and left us excited for what the future might behold. You started off your address with a little walk down memory lane, where you told us the fascinating and rather comical story of your reaction when you received your Harvard acceptance letter. This university is truly such an important part of all of our lives, and I'm so glad to be part of this wonderful community that has taught all of us so much. You then spoke about having a purpose in life. You spoke about the goal of today's generation, which is of creating a world where everyone has a purpose, where everyone has a feeling that they're part of something bigger than themselves, a feeling that they're needed and have something better to work for. You mentioned purpose is what creates true happiness, a quote that will reside in the hearts and minds of every single individual present here. You then left us all with a mantra, with 3 amazing ways in which we can create a world where everyone has a purpose. First, you urged us to take on big, meaningful projects. You inspired us to make those mistakes, to take those craziest decisions, and to do what we believe in. Second, you told us to redefine equality. You spoke about true equality, which is achieved when everyone has the ability to take their ideas and turn them into enterprises. You spoke about the need to give affordable childcare and continuous education in order to shape who could be the leaders of tomorrow. And lastly, you spoke about building more communities, about how our communities give us a sense of greater purpose, and how building more communities will give more people that sense of purpose. Today, you have truly inspired each and every one of us. We are truly honored to have the opportunity of hearing your words of wisdom and encouragement. We thank you and appreciate you making time to come and speak to us. Once again, thank you so much. My last speech is a news feature delivered at 2 different radio stations. The audience are the listeners tuning in. Good morning and welcome to MCNS News. I'm your host Barnaby Jones and welcome to the Morning News Show. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or the NATO, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 30 North American and European countries. The organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty, which was signed on the 4th of April back in 1949. On Tuesday, the 3rd of December 2019, Allied heads of state and government gathered in London to commemorate the 70th anniversary of this summit. During this, French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Canadian President Boris Johnson were caught on camera at a Buckingham Palace event in the apparent act of joking about American President Donald Trump. The leaders, huddled together, appeared to be trading views about Trump, with Macron gesticulating energetically. "You just watched his team's jaws drop to the floor," said Trudeau in an apparent reference to Trump's habit of keeping his own advisors out of loop of his own actions. "Is that why you were late?" asked Macron to Trudeau. "He was late because he takes a 40-minute press conference off the top every time," replied Trudeau, referring to Trump's 1-hour-long press conference during what was supposed to be just a 5-minute photo call with NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg. The leaders appeared to be unaware that they were being recorded. When asked about the viral clip on Wednesday, Trump replied by saying, "Well, he's two-faced," by referring to Justin Trudeau. In addition to this, after the video surfaced, Trump abruptly cut his trip short, announcing that he will be heading straight back to DC. That's all for now, but I'll see you after a short break with more news from all over the world coming at your way. Welcome to the Late Night Entertainment Show, the hottest show on the net waves, with your favorite host, Ryan Fox. And today, we are going to talk about the NATO, the world's most powerful alliance, sort of like if the Avengers were really concerned about tariffs. On Tuesday, the 70th anniversary of this summit, the world witnessed something that we have never, ever, ever seen before. A bunch of world leaders caught on camera laughing at America's president behind his back. This video is amazing for 2 reasons. One, that it's crazy how we were able to hear such a private conversation between major world leaders, like they just did not know that this was happening. And 2, because when world leaders get together, they're just plain gossipers, just like the rest of us. I mean, you'd expect them to be working together, drawing out new treaties or whatever, but instead, the Prime Minister of Canada is out here like, and you watch this team's jaws drop to the floor. And then he goes like, he was late because he takes a 40-minute press conference off the top every time. And while these world leaders were having tremendous fun, laughing their heads off, Donald Trump just did not find it funny. After the video surfaced, Trump abruptly cut his trip short, announcing that he will be heading straight back to DC. As far as Trump leaving the summit early is concerned, I think they hurt his feelings. Like Trump was at a sleepover and all the other kids turned on him and he was like, "Mom, I know it's a day early, but can you come and pick me up from NATO?" And then Trudeau, Macron and Rutte was still fine. But Boris Johnson was definitely the one that hurt the most. I mean, that's his friend. You know who Boris is? Boris is that one kid who you think is your friend, and you see him out there with all the other cool kids, and you told him your deepest secrets. And you know, Donald told me he pees his bed. I told you that in confidence, Boris. All right then, that's all for now, but I'll see you in a jiffy with more fun, laughter, and entertainment. Moving on to my reflections task, I will be starting with the performance program. The starting point for the planning of my performances was the news feature. The whole notion of delivering the same piece of news in two different ways seemed very interesting to me, and I immediately set out on finding a news that could be molded in both a serious and a comedic way. After doing a lot of research and digging into various news articles, I finally shortlisted Trump's visit to the NATO and molded it in both a serious way and a comedic way, referring to various real news articles and comedians. And then I moved on to the next one. My experience with acting and theatre drove me towards doing the story. In order to showcase my acting skills and to actually allow myself to be that little more dramatic, I chose to deliver my story to a group of very young children so that I can actually express myself. I decided to deliver my story at an adventure camp because I thought this would be the perfect setting for a little bedtime story. I also wanted to choose a story which reflects the Indian culture well and is mostly unheard of. Therefore, I ended up choosing The Brahmin's Dream. The Brahmin's Dream actually had a lot of physical elements. It reflected the Indian culture perfectly and was also hilarious, which made it the perfect choice for my story. Next, I moved on to my persuasive speech. My experience with various debates and debating platforms persuaded me to actually do the persuasive speech at a debating event. I'm very interested in technology and big tech companies, therefore I chose the topic of big tech monopolies, which is a topic which I'm really interested in. I did a lot of research into this topic, gathering a lot of news and evidence to make myself more credible and strengthening my argument. After this, I went on to introducing and thanking a speaker. For this speech, there was no other than Mark Zuckerberg who I would even look at. I have heard Mark Zuckerberg's Harvard commencement speech countless times, and this is just a speech that I relate to very well and something I'm really interested in. Therefore, I chose Mark Zuckerberg, who is my role model, as my speaker. I introduced him at the Harvard commencement address and also thanked him. For this, I had to read a lot about Mark Zuckerberg's entire life, everything he has done, including his contributions to different fields as well as to society, and also listening to his actual Harvard commencement speech countless times. Lastly, I moved on to my last speech, which was the after-dinner speech. I'm very familiar with sporting events, and I love to watch live sports on TV. This urged me to take on the after-dinner speech as one of my speeches. For the after-dinner speech, I chose soccer as my event, and I chose to be the captain of the team, reflecting the energy after a big win. I got this energy from various players I've seen over the years on TV and even in real life when I've been part of these sporting events. I tried to be as enthusiastic as possible and crafted a speech which was hilarious yet quite formal. When I was planning my speeches, I wanted to order them and structure them in a way that would make them as distinguishable as possible. I wanted to save my best speech to the last, and therefore I thought that would be none other than the news feature, therefore I placed it last. I also wanted to start very strongly, so I decided to place my persuasive speech right at the beginning. My persuasive speech and my introduction and thanking of speaker both require the same costume and props and stage setting. Therefore, I decided that it would be better if I set them as apart as possible. And so I decided to place the story right in the middle. For my second speech, I decided the after-dinner speech because that would be a great break from the monotony of the formal speech and would also be very different from the story, which was a much more informal speech. After all these criteria were sought, I could easily formulate the ideal structural flow of my 5 speeches. Overall, the planning part of my performance program was not easy, but I could manage it with a little bit of thought. Moving on to the personal response, challenges, and reflection. The ATCL course was definitely not an easy one, and throughout my entire journey, I faced various challenges. The most prominent one for me was meeting the time limit. I just couldn't happen to meet the 25-minute time limit. When I was practicing my speeches individually, I crafted them in a way that they would come to exactly 5 minutes. When I performed them all together, however, with the costumes, with the change of props, the change of attire, and the change of stage setting, it was going way beyond this time limit. So I had to work a lot on cutting out content from my speeches. This challenge actually taught me a lot, and it helped me develop as an oral communicator as well as an individual. In order to tackle this challenge, I also required various skills, which were mainly self-management and time management skills. To manage my time better, I decided to reduce the redundant sentences from my speech and actually speed up the process of changing my attire, changing the stage setting, etc. This allowed me to actually get my speech on time, which was finally a great accomplishment. My choices for stage setting use the stage differently for each of my speeches. I plan to add as much variety as I can according to what each of my speeches demanded. For example, I chose to take the lectern as part of my introducing and thanking the speaker, as well as my first persuasive speech, because those are two formal events. I also decided to do my after-dinner speech without any stage setting because I felt I could interact with my assumed audience, which was my football team, much better if I didn't have any obstructions and I could move around the stage. For my story also, I decided to move around and actually interact with the children because my assumed audience was little children. And for the radio talk show, I decided to use a stool because I thought that would be just the perfect setting and it would emulate a radio studio perfectly well. Working through these challenges, I could truly understand my true potential, and I could learn that I can persevere even though there are very adverse conditions, and I could work my way through all of these problems very well. After all of these elements, including the digital aids, the costumes, the props, and everything came together, I realized how cohesive this entire exercise is, and how my success depends on all of these elements being perfectly placed together. And so I try to master them all. If I had the same problem of timing in the future, I would definitely be better prepared to tackle it and would definitely not panic. I would find areas where my time is being lost without the addition of much value and would seek to correct them as I have learned from this journey. This journey overall has been a wonderful voyage which has taught me about myself so much. I have learned what my strengths and my limitations are. I now know that I'm strong at adapting to changes quickly, and I can even change personas very quickly and deftly. However, I also realize that I sometimes tend to overthink whatever I do, and I also cannot structure my various ideas together in a cohesive, structural manner. These challenges were definitely obstacles in my great journey, but getting through them was also an important part that taught me so much. Lastly, I will be talking about health and safety. The ATCL is definitely a rigorous course, with me having to speak for 25 minutes. This definitely has an effect on the performer's health. I occasionally face the challenge of a dry throat, not being able to make it through all of my 5 speeches. The pandemic also posed various health-related difficulties, with me having to wear a mask every time and also to practice the basic hygiene and sanitary measures. In order to ensure safety during the pandemic, I also used an imaginary audiences where I correlated my memories of audiences of similar sizes when I was actually public speaking and actually tried to imagine the same kind of audience over here when I was speaking. This allowed me to best tailor my delivery for the assumed audience. I also had to be vocally and physically healthy to pull this off, and so I performed various vocal and physical exercises. For the first speech, I had to be very loud and bold, and therefore I did a lot of exercises that could help me get greater breath and actually be louder. These included having to breathe out while humming, etc. For my second speech, I needed a lot of energy and enthusiasm, so I worked on my inflection and overall my energy with various physical exercises that helped me feel way more active. For my third speech, I needed a lot of emotion because I was delivering this story to a young group of children who I was really expressive to. Therefore, I worked a lot on my inflection, recording myself with various tones and pitches in my voice. For my fourth speech, I was delivering at a very, very formal event with a large audience, and this is actually the Harvard Commencement Address. So I definitely had to be very, very clear in my pronunciations. That's why I worked a lot with my articulation, performing various exercises like tongue twisters in order to make sure that every single word I say sounds as clear as possible. Lastly, for this fifth speech, the most important part for me over there was actually getting Donald Trump's accent correct. And for this, I had to watch a lot of videos of him and also record myself and see how similar I sound. The work on accent was definitely not easy, but it helped me create my last speech in a better manner. I also needed a high level of energy and focus, and therefore I did physical exercises every day, keeping me healthy and ready to take on long periods of performance. My experience with acting and theatre also allowed me to tackle these challenges, as I was used to performing long plays on stage for lengthy periods of time. In order to maintain focus, I also did a lot of meditation every day and completely immersed myself into the setting, imagining every single detail about it as it is, and giving me the impression that I was actually present there. Overall, the ATCL course was definitely a great voyage. Thank you.